Today I'm going to be talking about budgeting for a family of 4 in the UK. Now, I am married, I have 2 kids, so I am a family of 4 and I have been budgeting, for years and years and years. So I've got this down to a bit of a fine art. So I'm going to use this video to share with you some of my tips and strategies that I not only use myself, but I share with people like you to help improve their financial situation. So welcome to the Looking After Your Pennies YouTube channel. My name is Charlotte Jessup and I am a financial educator. It's my job to teach you about how different parts of your money work, whether it's making money, saving money, investing, pensions, debt, credit scores, or literally anything else to do with money. So today I'm going to be breaking down the steps that you can go through to budget for your family of 4. Now, obviously, different families look a little bit different. So my kids are kind of small, but not super small. They're like 6 and 4. So they have, they require money, but they're not super expensive yet. Whereas your family of 4 might have, really small kids or really big kids. So that's going to affect what your budget looks like. So what I'm going to give you today are some strategies to manage your money as a family and how you can implement this to the benefit of everyone. So the first step is to work out actually what money you have. Where is the money coming from and where is it going to? Now, this is always a good exercise to kind of do retrospectively. So you might want to go back through your bank statements. You might want to look through an app or something like that. Now, with that money that's coming in, you might find that it comes in from more places than you expect. So you could find that you have money obviously coming in from your jobs, but you might have money coming in from things like benefits or from side hustles. Maybe your kids are now old enough to have jobs, or maybe, they get some pocket money from nanny and granddad or, somebody else. Where is the money coming from? And do this as a family. It will really help you appreciate the money that you have, and then you want to look after it more. You then need to look at what your money habits are telling you. So this is what happens when you look at where the money's going. Obviously, you'll see some things, like your mortgage, your rent, food, car, whatever it is, the things you kind of need to pay for, you'll see those going out. But you'll also get an understanding of what your spending habits are too. Now, if your kids are old enough, you can get them involved. So you can look at what they're spending their money on. So think about the costs that are involved with your children. So you're like, well, actually, we spend this money on you going to swimming lessons. We also spend this money because, you had a party and, your friend needed a present and all of these sorts of things. So have a look at your spending habits and do this for each person too. You might be looking at your budget as a whole, but you can also include some little mini budgets for each person in there as well. Get your kids involved in this exercise. You can get them to look through your bank statements. Like if your kids can read, you can get them to go through and find every Amazon expense or, everything that's from Tesco or Aldi or whatever it is and highlight that in a particular colour. Make it something that you do together as a family because you'll be teaching your kids good skills too. And you'll notice that this is a theme through this video is about this discussion and making it a family activity. So the next step is to create a budget. Now, this is not all going to be about, cutting back and restriction. All this is a kind of template for where your money comes from and where you want it to go. It kind of just organises your thoughts a little bit more. And this is why I say that you absolutely must write this down. Now, I'm not prescriptive about whether you do it on a spreadsheet or an app or a bit of paper, but you must write it down somewhere. I do have a free spreadsheet that you can use. There's a link in my bio if you want to check that out. That can help you manage your money. So you then need to fill in the things like the mortgage, the council tax, all of these things that you have to pay. You might also want to include in here things like, the kids clubs or your childcare, whatever it is. Put the things that you kind of have to pay or you feel like you have a sense of duty to pay in now. This will kind of give you a clear template of where your money needs to go. This is kind of like, I like to call this a bit of like a disaster budget. Like if the worst came to the worst, what things would you still need to be spending money on? So that should go into your budget in the first instance. It should then show you where there's maybe some wiggle room to make improvements. And it'll also show you what's left, okay? So then the next step is to set some goals. Now, you might have a goal to go to Disney World as a family, or you might have a goal to get debt free so you can free up some cash. But it's also likely that different members of your family have goals too. You might have a kid who wants to be a professional soccer player. So a part of your budget maybe needs to go to ensuring that they can keep going to like football lessons and football practice every week. Okay? You might have a partner who really, wants to get into cycling. So there needs to be a little bit of a budget for, cycling gear or, equipment and stuff like that. I don't know what you need for cycling, but, those sorts of things, you maybe need to make sure that's reflected in your budget. So individual goals for each person in your family show up in the budget as well as the bigger goals you have together. I think it's good to put these things in after you've done those fixed expenses. So after you've got the mortgage in, after you've got like your bills and all of that sort of thing, then have some money that goes in there that goes towards your goals. Now you could be saving this, you could be investing this, wherever it needs to go to ensure that those goals are going to be met in the future. Once you've got those things in, then you can start looking at some of the variable expenses. So this could be things like food or days out, okay? You might be thinking, shouldn't I be putting the food in earlier on? Well, actually, we've probably got more flexibility in how much we spend on things like food and fuel or days out than we do over a lot of the other stuff, okay? If I said to you, you had to cut your food spend down because you haven't got a job anymore, you could probably do it better than you probably think you can. Now, you want to set some budgets for this that are optimistic, so, maybe there are an improvement on what you're currently spending, but also that are realistic too. You really don't want to overstretch. So let's say you're spending £100 a week on food at the moment. You can't then turn around and go, but I want to spend 30. Okay, that's just not going to work. It's not going to match up. You might aim to do that at some point in the future, but why not just set like 90 or like 95? And then next month we can bring it down to, 80 or something like that. We don't want to jump in with 2 feet into a huge amount of change. We need to do it incrementally. And this way it becomes a lot more sustainable. So put in all of those other things that you need that, like they need to be in your budget. You need to pay for them to live, food. But they aren't necessarily, they're not fixed costs. They change month by month and you have some bit more control over them. Now, hopefully at this point you maybe have a little bit more money left and we'll come to that in a second. But first I want to talk about your food spends. So this is always an area that I think most families have improvement for. So I think we've definitely got improvement on our food spends in my family, and it's something that we kind of flip between working on and not working on. We've got some good habits around this. So we do things such as meal planning. So when we're doing our food shopping, we literally write out 7 meals for the week and we just buy the stuff for that. We're not just buying random things thinking we're going to use it. We make sure that every meal is planned out. We also factor into here things like, do we want to take away this week? Or, are we at, Nanny and Granddad's house for a meal? And then we only buy the food for that. And this kind of keeps us on the straight and narrow. We also plan out things like snacks. Are we going to have a snack this weekend? Or, were we thinking about getting a takeaway, but actually, is there something that we could buy from the supermarket instead that would mean that we don't want a takeaway? Okay, so we plan these things out. We also try and be smart about the sorts of foods that we buy. So we're not eating steak every day, okay? Maybe we'll buy some, some meals that are a bit cheaper. Maybe we'll have something out of the freezer one day and then we'll get like fresh the next day. So have a think about your food and see if that's something you can agree on as a family. You might need to get the kids involved, what snacks do you like? Get them to plan, we often do what meal do you want? And we have one meal that everybody likes during the week. And do it as a bit of a collaborative approach. If your kids are old enough to have these conversations, then by all means, get them involved. If you have the money and you have the space, then look at things like batch buying and batch prepping. Okay, there are some huge savings to be had in that area. You just need to be a little bit creative about your food spends. Now, once you've got all these things in, you've got all the bills, you've kind of put your goal money in, the things that you really want to achieve, then you've got these variable expenses in, then it's time to look at things like fun, okay, the discretionary spending. So if you've got some wiggle room, you've got a little bit of money left over in this, then maybe you want to allocate a pot of money. Now, it's good to do this per person. So it could be that, if your kids are little, you maybe just want a little bit of money so that if you're out and about and they want an ice cream, there's the money. But for adults, you might want to be able to make some freedom about what you spend your money on. So let's say you really like buying makeup, for example. Having a fun pot there can mean that you have the freedom to buy that without needing to check in with your partner. And likewise, by having their own pot, they don't need to check in with you every time they want to buy something for themselves. Decide some budgets and, what is going to fall into that budget and put those in as well. Now, I'm a big fan of zero-based budgeting, so I like to allocate out all of the money. But you've covered all of the main things. You should have your savings, your investments set up. You should have, your food and your necessities. So if there's any money left, think carefully about where you want it to go. Are you going to add it to the savings? Are you going to use it to pay off debt? But try and allocate all of it. That way, your money feels like it's important. It feels like it's being looked after, and it's going towards what you want it to go towards rather than just being spent willy-nilly. Okay? Now, the last point is you need to talk and reflect on these things as a family. Okay? So if your kids are old enough to be involved in the conversations, get them involved. You're like, where do you think you spend too much money? What's your fun pot enough? What goals do we have? What went really well? Where did we overspend? Did we have too many takeaways? Why was it that we had too many takeaways? How could we avoid those things in the future? Did we spend our money on things that we love, or did we spend it on stuff that we saw there and then? You are in a privileged position where you have other people that care about this stuff too. They might not look like they care about it now, but they are invested in some way. It matters what happens to that money. And you've got 3 other people that you can share this with. So get them involved, have these conversations, ask them for suggestions, and turn to your kids too. I'm a big believer in financial education starts young. So get your kids to make suggestions. They might go, well, I've got a load of toys, I could clear them out and we can put that in this pot. Great suggestion. I've kind of gone off cheese strings, so maybe we shouldn't buy cheese strings anymore and I'll just have a block of cheese instead. That's a cheap alternative. So let them have these ideas and see what they can contribute to your conversation. Let me know how you find budgeting for a family for. What works well, what's challenging, what things you would like to learn more about. And whilst you're there, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. I will catch you in my next video. Until then, have a good one. Bye.